Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge John at the Dread and Fear of Kings for bringing us together, and to thank Grand Seiko and Nexus for co-sponsoring this evening. Their support reminds us that exploration isn't just about charting new territories, but caring for a world that we all share. Imagine for a moment yourself on the shoreline of the Arctic Ocean, with a Greenland ice sheet behind you and undulating ice slowly bobbing in the ocean in front of you. An elder Inuit guide gestures toward the horizon, pointing to a pass where ice rained longer and steadier. Today, the landscape is shifting. We once honored explorers like Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary for scaling Everest, and Matthew Henson for carving paths to the poles. Their achievements measured courage against physical extremes, revealing how far our species could push the known world. In a recent conversation I had with Bertrand Piccard, the Swiss explorer and psychiatrist who piloted the Breitling Orbiter project back in 1999. It was the longest ever non-stop balloon flight that circumnavigated the globe. He shared with me, there was a time in history when explorers were discovering new territories, new continents, the bottoms of the oceans, the tops of mountains. Then there was a moment for space exploration, where we went to the moon. Today, exploration is about improving life on Earth, about turning what doesn't work into new ways of doing and into new ways of thinking. Now, greatness isn't defined any longer by planting flags in uncharted lands. Instead, we navigate a realm where ice and old assumptions melt, and once isolated perspectives blend into more cohesive strategies. By better understanding how vulnerable communities adapt, the global collective gains the insight to respond more inclusively, in turn forging new solutions that bridge diverse viewpoints and better prepare us for changing conditions. For the moment, let's leave the Arctic and exploration for the remote eastern Himalaya, to the village of Merak in the easternmost stretches of Bhutan. In Merak, jagged snow-covered peaks loom behind evergreen slopes that roll gently into distant valleys. The morning air there is so clear that it magnifies and reverberates a soft ring of yak bells throughout the valley. Sheep graze beside the yaks, guided by families who've balanced these herds against the land's offerings for generations. In this tranquil corner, butter tea warms cupped hands, and greetings drift quietly between neighbors before the sun fully wakes the field. Inside a humble home, walls bear the imprint of countless seasons. As dawn's first light approaches, you sense a careful choreography of a semi-nomadic life here. Crops chosen and rotated over centuries, grazing strategies refined through trial and time. No one makes a grand speech about resilience or adaptation. They simply live it, showing that to thrive is to move in step with nature's rhythms, adapting incrementally, steadily, and without fanfare. But not all places hold such quiet balance. In Murgab, Tajikistan, also over 13,000 feet above sea level, conditions are harsher. Once, caravans navigated rugged routes, bringing goods, traditions, and cultural ties to this high-altitude crossroads. Now, shifting borders complicate passage. Political tensions impose new rules, and climate patterns skew snowfall and meltwater flows. Fields that managed modest harvests struggle to yield, livestock graze uncertainly, and cultural traditions, songs, ceremonies, and knowledge, all tied to stable seasons, now face erosion. Who wonders why neighbors no longer arrive with their familiar wares? Why certain family customs feel unmoored? Why the landscape itself seems less generous? When there, witnessing these anecdotes, it's easy to see that it's not just livelihoods at risk. It's the heartbeat of their community, the continuity of their stories, the very identity they've nurtured for centuries. This realization is what continues to push me onward in my work. For over 20 years, I've moved across continents, through Alaskan tundra, Himalayan passes, Arctic coastlines, and into the Congo, meeting over 2,500 indigenous community members from over 35 different communities who all share similar stories. I've seen how environmental shifts ripple through trade, rituals, language, and belief. As the sustainability columnist for the Explorers Journal and the cultural columnist for the Overland Journal, I recorded transitions that many overlook. My documentary work on climate and cultural adaptation, and my book series capturing on-the-ground experiences taught me that enduring solutions emerge when isolated perspectives blend. Working with global organizations, I've learned that progress arises when lived experience, modern evidence, and international interests all merge together. This understanding is what led me to conceive of my latest project, MELT, a 2-year overland circumnavigation of the Arctic, which will be the first of its kind. This story has never been told at a scale that covers the entire Arctic before, offering a panoramic view of the region's diverse cultures and the common challenges they all face. Indigenous Gwich'in scientists will co-lead our inquiries, ensuring their voices don't simply inform, but help shape what we find, better ensuring authenticity in the cultural narrative. We'll meet Inuit communities in Nunavut in Greenland, Sami herders in Lapland, the Koryaks and Idlemans of the Kamchatka Peninsula in the far east of Russia, Yupik in Siberia and Alaska, and many others throughout their journey. Individuals whose cultural survival and climate resilience embody the very essence of melting old paradigms into holistic strategies. So, why does this matter? The Arctic, warming at twice the global average, is the epicenter of climate change, with melting ice impacting global sea levels and weather patterns that affect ecosystems and economies worldwide. In response, major powers like China, Russia, and the United States are rethinking priorities, not merely for resources, but for enduring partnerships and strategic stability. Corporations revisit supply chains, aiming for sustainable options that bring reputational strength and investor confidence. Right now, we stand at a juncture where blending lived experience, modern science, and geopolitical strategy can yield stable governance and robust adaptation. To be clear, this isn't a clash of giants over fragile lands. Instead, imagine lived experience from the indigenous communities refining climate models, cultural respect shaping policy, and economic planning guided by nuanced local insights. Policymakers can craft plans that outlast election cycles. Businesses can align practices with ecological truths, which would, in turn, stabilize markets and foster trust. In this model, indigenous and remote communities don't just endure, they help define solutions, securing equitable resource sharing, cultural recognition, and new opportunities. MELT represents this melding of once separated narratives into a single, forward-looking blended approach that supports everyone's survival and growth. In the coming years, MELT's lessons, including the dialogues we collect in remote camps, data gathered from shifting ice, and the anecdotal accounts from people adapting, will influence how we choose to act right here. If you run a business, consulting local voices before plotting supply routes can mean steadier inventory, reduced costs, and respectful partnerships. If you teach, these stories can show students that resilience knows no borders. If you shape policy, including Indigenous Council early on builds frameworks that withstand political volatility. Alright, so in these last 10 minutes or so, we've journeyed from a Bhutanese hillside to Arctic frontiers, traced patterns through landscapes and lives, and seen that exploration now lies in blending perspectives. This era calls for melting old boundaries so we can craft solutions that resonate across cultures and climates. As you step away tonight, please consider that every choice, be it in business, international policy, or community engagement, becomes a frontier of exploration. By acknowledging the complexity and melding insights, we ensure that the future need not be stark or uncertain, but can be truly rich in potential. We don't have to conquer Everest or march to distant poles to earn the title of explorer. All we have to do is simply listen, expand our vantage points, and transform uncertainty into collective strength. When we melt old assumptions and forge new connections, we ensure a more resilient world awaits us all. Thank you.